Hi. I am really excited to have everyone join today for the Hangout. And our topic of the day is coming out and different coming out experiences and journey. I'm Melissa Yingst, and I'm going to give you my visual description. I have, I'm a light brown Latina with short hair. I have white earrings, red lipstick, brown curly hair with a black shirt with a gold bracelet, and I have some tattoos on my arms. I have a white background with a brown couch to my left, and I'm really honored to have three of you with us today. So before we go ahead and get into the conversation, I would love for you to introduce yourselves and give a visual description. We'll start with Dre. Hi, I'm Dre Hollingsworth. I'm African American. I have a white background with blue glasses and a blue t-shirt. And I have a chain that has a number 7. It's my favorite number. I'm really happy to be here for this.
Jojo. Hello, everybody. My name is Jojo Lopez. I'm a deaf Latino. And I'm wearing a gray V-neck shirt and I have a black background. I'm very honored and excited to be here.
Thank you. All right, Cami.
My name is Cami. I have no sign name, just spelled. I'm in my living room. I am Asian. I'm wearing a black jacket, and thank you for having me here.
All right. Well, this is Melissa signing. This is a much needed conversation. And this month it is National Coming Out Day. And I've also seen that there is an announcement with Deaf Queer this month as well. There's going to be National Deaf Queer History Month. So this is a perfect time to have this conversation. And I would love to know what your thoughts are on Coming Out Day. So let's start with that. And maybe you could talk about your own coming out journeys and mention some things that you'd like to share. All right. So floor is open to whoever wants to add some comments. And this is Cami. I'll go first. So for me, I didn't feel like I felt like I had to come out twice because I was in a straight space. And so I felt like because we have to label ourselves and we have to compartmentalize ourselves in those spaces. And I really don't feel like we have to even label ourselves. And so with those labels, it's really limiting us to just one area. So being gay or being lesbian. But in reality, we're also fluid and no one's 100% gay or no one's 100% lesbian. And so to call myself lesbian, I don't feel comfortable with doing that. We are who we are. And for societal pressures, if it wasn't even for that, then I wouldn't even have to come out. So that's my view on it. My experience growing up has been negative as well as positive. I've had different experience. I was born in 1976, so do the math. You can figure out how old I am. And people weren't open to that yet. They were still closed-minded at the time. And I always felt very scared to come out growing up. And I always felt a lot of pressure to come out. And I was nervous around the whole concept. And I remember going into high school and I was the new kid on the block and going into that space, trying to figure out just who I was as a person. And I remember this one senior, it was this guy. We never really conversated that much. And we were in different crowds out of the blue in the hallway. He just points to me and says, "You're a lesbian." And I was taken aback because that was the first time someone had labeled me a lesbian. And I felt like it was so wrong at the time. I remember another time, it was an interesting experience. It was one of my friends. It was the senior, it was a guy, and he was insulting my friend who said, "You were a lesbian." And she said, "Oh, well, I'm learning from other people." And so it was just kind of funny. But then growing up in Gallaudet, everyone was just so open and more accepting. And I felt so much more comfortable in that space. And it's so much better now. And times are different too. There's so many more resources. There's a lot more support out there. People are just more open-minded. And yes, there's still more work that we have to do. There's always going to be work. There's always so much more that we can learn.
You're right. There's a long way to go. This is Melissa. And I like what you said about not having to come out, right? We just are the way we are. And that connects to self-love. So thank you for
Mhm.
sharing that. Any other thoughts, Jojo or Dre? Do you want to share about your experience in relation to this topic? You know you. Jojo here. Specifically in regards to coming out, honestly, I never had those thoughts. I didn't really think about coming out. I felt like it was on my terms in my own space and time for me to come out. At first to just close friends and then other people and eventually completely. But yeah, back then I didn't have coming out day the way that we do now. I feel like there's a more awareness now. We have this national coming out day. I'm seeing this more and more, but I remember a friend of mine who felt inspired by seeing coming out day. So, and that friend wasn't the only one. There were other people who felt the same way. And I think that has changed because in my experience, I mean, coming out doesn't necessarily have to be for everybody. It impacts people in different ways. Some people don't want to come out, right? And that's okay
Mhm.
too. So there has to be space for everything. That's my perspective. But for me, growing up in my family, first of all, I want to say I love my family. I dearly value them. They're an important part of my life. Growing up, they've made me who I am today. My family is hearing, and we grew up regularly attending church. My dad was involved in ministry. And so growing up, I was in a really strict Christian environment, and that was tough because I had almost like two sides of myself, like who I was at home and the way I would act, and like this perfect kid. And then I would go to the deaf school. The deaf school was my safe space where I could really open up and be myself and feel who I truly was. So I felt like I had a lot of support from other students and staff and my friends there at the deaf school. So that was great. And I kind of bounced between these two identities. And then eventually over the years, I had my ups and downs, of course, but now, I kind of know, my family knows, my close family knows, not so much probably my extended family, but
Oh,
we still do have a lot of work to do, as Cami said.
it's
So I agree with
precious.
that.
That's precious. This is Melissa. It's so nice that your family came around because I know a lot of people still out there struggle with their families. So that really means a lot. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, Dre. This is Dre. Absolutely. Family is where you're going to be loved because family, of course, they learn everything of tradition. And I wasn't raised by my family. I was in foster care when I was 12. I really moved around to different group homes. So with that, coming out was something that I felt like I didn't have to do that. But it's just really for me, it was about knowing who you are. You could share with those people who you know love you. And I know it's hard because when you're wanting to be loved by your parents and but I wouldn't change who I am. So it's just I think it just all comes down to my biological mom, my mother. She already knew. She knew that I was gay. She already knew that. But she didn't want to talk about it because she just felt that she felt like it wasn't how God, makes you and it's okay. That's okay. It's when I was in the group home, there was a lot of gay people, a lot more than there were lesbian over there that I would meet. And they would share with us their stories and how their family wouldn't accept them. And so finally, when I went into a foster home, I just realized this one in particular was just religious. And I'm very, I'm rebellious. I like to do my own thing. And I went in there and it was so strict. And I just, I didn't want to go back to the group home because the foster home made me happy. They were all deaf sisters. They all signed. And they all went to school for the deaf. And I felt like I fit in. So I was stuck and I was trying to figure out, do I go over there to the group home or do I fit in with the foster family? And I did. So I had to really wear a mask the whole time and hide that piece of who I was.
This is Melissa. That's really tough.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm happy now, right? So
And you are who you are, right? Your journey led to where you are now.
yes. Yes, 100%.
Wonderful. For me, my own journey was a little bit different. I came out much later in life. I had lived more of a heterosexual lifestyle for a long time, but I saw coming out day and I saw people's experiences, and for me, it was a way to raise awareness. I think both for people who are still struggling to come out, right? Feeling that they have the courage to do so. And then also for society to really be exposed to people's stories and to see their journeys and their experiences of oppression, and for people to kind of look within themselves and not judge others. After all of this, I finally came out much later in life, and I felt like it became so much more dear to me. I thought, without all these stories, they wouldn't have given me the courage to come out as I did. So, for example, one big influencer, Glenn Doyle, their journey of being with a man and then being with a woman, the soccer player, Abby Womack,
Yeah.
who came out and shared her story. I felt like I had so much in common with her. I really identified with her in a really powerful way. And so that gave me a lot of courage. And I'm so thankful for social media and for these days of awareness, because they really help us to understand, maybe like those of us who are here to be recognized. And I wish that someday it might become more accepted and more commonplace. But I guess I'm just curious, what were others' responses when each one of you came out? For me, I had interesting responses from those in my life. I think those close to me were very accepting. Maybe not everyone, but I do remember being afraid that my closest friends, I had a lot of really close girlfriends. I was worried what they would think of me, but they were very accepting. They're like, "Oh, well, you just happen to love someone of the same sex," and I said, "Are you surprised?" And they're like, "Huh." So I don't know. I'm just curious about your responses. Were any of those responses helpful or unhelpful? What was your journey like?
This is Dre.
Right?
Yeah, it wasn't helpful for me. I mean, I really, I recognize your journey, and I definitely hats off to it, but I did learn a lot from social media, I have to say, and Queen Latifah, she's everything. I knew she wasn't out of the closet, but how she acted, how she dressed, I knew. I knew she was gay. And I just knew. And so it just helped me heal, and it was because of her. So,
What about you two? This is Jojo. For me, I don't know. I've had lots of different experiences, but maybe some negative ones. When I came out at first to my parents and to my family, I did feel, the only person who really supported me was my little sister. I had a lot of grief in the process. I did tell her that I was gay, really young, maybe like 10 or 11. And she said, the only important thing is that you're happy. And I was surprised by that. And so I felt very supported. My older sister, there's three of us. So my older sister was more conservative. My parents also are very conservative. My family, again, very Christian. I love them, but coming out was really tough. There was a lot of praying in the house, a lot of things said like God will help you, or the devil's in you, or how about you read the Bible, a lot of that. And so I had to, again, I knew I couldn't be straight for the rest of my life. I couldn't be that way, but I wanted to keep a relationship with my family. And so that was a challenge to balance those things. That was during my high school years. So I kind of wore this mask during that time. And then a few years later, I came out during college when I came back from Gallaudet on vacation, or rather on break. And I was much more aware. I was felt stronger in my identity. I told my parents very clearly, almost the first thing, that I was gay. And we had a good discussion. I had a good discussion with my parents, and I felt more supportive. And so they knew, but I still feel like there's great love shared amongst all my family members. They love me, I love them. And I don't know if they'll ever accept me being gay, perhaps later, but I think the positive part for me when I came out, even though all that stuff happened with my family, when I came out to my friends at the deaf school, I went back to the California School for the Deaf at Riverside. There were a good number of LGBTQIA students. And so a lot of them self-identified as gay or lesbian, and they really supported me. And I had a really positive experience there.
You're very lucky. You're definitely blessed. This is Dre. And this is Melissa. There's two different communities, but I'm really glad that you found yourself a very positive community that you can get into. And this is Cami. So my experience was very different at the Maryland School for the Deaf, and we had gay and lesbian teachers and administrators and parents, but we didn't really talk about it during my time. And of course, now people are very open, but during my time, so often, we didn't say anything. If people were out and they were just proud of being gay or lesbian, bi, or pansexual, then children would have felt more comfortable coming out. But they didn't talk about it at the time. So we didn't think that we could talk about it. And so there were side conversations that happened, but we really didn't come out. And it wasn't helpful that no one came out. So there's a lot of uncertainty and a lot of people just questioning if things were actually what the way they were. And there were no resources, and there were a lot more labels at the time. So there was just gay, lesbian, and bi at the time. There weren't any other labels. So really figuring out your identity was really hard. But just like, you were just mentioning social media, there's so many more labels that you're learning about. And I'm learning about the word queer, which is even a negative word back then, but now it's actually something that the community has embraced. So it's really interesting these days.
This is Melissa. Yes, I think labels is something that these days I really notice. Um, People, say things like, "Oh, okay, I love women," and they say, "Are you a lesbian?" And then it's like, "Why are you labeling me like that?" Right? So like maybe that person's still figuring it out, and they just know who they're attracted to, and that's it. So I think I agree with you. I'm grateful for social media because that provides us with different ways of self-identifying and different ways that it is okay to exist in this world, so that nobody puts you in a box. And maybe it might satisfy their curiosity for someone else, but it's not necessarily like a black or white thing.
Exactly.
Sometimes people are quick to assume if, like they think, oh, this person is attracted to women because they had a bad experience with men, but that's not really the case. Like
It's
for
the
me, that's just
connection.
my heart and who I'm attracted to. That's
Yeah.
hard to understand.
Yeah, well, you were talking about a bad experience that you had, right? This is Dre. You had mentioned something about having a bad experience with that guy who had liked you, right? Even though you were attracted to women.
Oh, this is Melissa. I mean that people, think that just because you're attracted to women, they assume that you must have had a bad experience with a man, and that's not
Wow.
true, right? That's
Right.
not true. I think that's sometimes it's hard for people to understand why we are attracted to those we're attracted to.
Mhm. Definitely. Definitely.
They make a lot of assumptions, and it doesn't help our community, right? Because our community is so small. And I think that can be both a positive or a negative. Being small, the bad side is everybody knows everybody's business, right? Once you find out, everybody knows. And
Mhm.
those of you, especially who have gone to schools for the deaf, the word gets out quickly.
This is Cami. I've experienced that myself.
Yeah, but then also having those resources and support is helpful.
This is Dre. I just wanted to throw something out there. I know I look gay, queer. It's just a part of me. It's who I am. And there's a lot of men who hit me up too. They say, "Oh, I can change you. You could become straight." And I'm thinking, "What? No." Like,
This is almost like you. Oh my gosh, that's my reaction. Is just
yes.
you.
Yes. I'm like, no. And they're like, "Oh, but I can. You're so beautiful." And I'm like, thanks. I'm beautiful. I am, but no, I'm not interested. So it's a little annoying. I wish like guys could be more, just a little bit more respectful. Whenever you say no, then just be respectful and you don't have to like try to push it or anything.
This is Melissa, and that's another thing to mention. There's no one way to be a gay or queer person, right?
Exactly.
People make assumptions on who is or who isn't, but you just never know, and that's the truth. We just are who we are, and it's based on attraction.
And this is Dre. Look, I know people don't know my story and why I have a kid and they think I have a kid and they're like, "Oh, you used to be straight." And I'm like, "No, you know what? I don't need to explain this because this is none of your business." You know what I mean? So I wanted a kid. That's it. And they're like, "Oh, well then why don't if you were straight before, why don't you just go back to being straight?" And I'm like, "No." That's
This is Melissa. Right. People want to push us on one side or the other, right?
right. Right.
And this is Cami. Before with my wife, we have a son, but often people would question us and say, "Do you plan to have kids?" And I would respond like, "Why are you even asking me that?" Same thing with what Dre
Thank
said.
you. Thank you.
Well, if I share, then that's my choice. But for them to ask, like just invasive questions, I don't think that's appropriate.
This is Melissa. It's really no one's business.
Right.
Just looking at everybody's conversation, I think we're lucky. All the people who knew who they were and they were able to come out early in life. And I just want to share a story that I have. I remember RID, Rainbow Alliance for the Deaf, RID.
Yes.
So they would recognize people every month for their activity in the community, and they recognized me one month. So I thought it was a great honor. And some members would look at me and they would make some comments. They say, "Oh, why did they select her? She's so new. She's only been out for, at that time, it was 5 years." And I remember that. And I just, I remember those comments and I thought, man, that really hurts. But I guess I have to understand the difference in life perspective and the different perspectives that are out there. And they may not have grown up with that oppression in their life. And I do understand that perspective, but I look at them and I think, wow, you were so lucky that you knew so early and you came out a long time ago and you were so secure with that decision and you had more support earlier in your life, because coming out later in your life can be painful. You have a loss of so many things, what you thought you knew, you know what I mean? So honestly, I think we need to make space. We need to make space for anyone, no matter what their journey is, no matter when they come out or came out, no matter who they're with. We should always have that space where we are welcoming and we just say to everybody, we're in this together. Do you think our community supports each other? What are your thoughts on that?
This is Dre. Definitely, I do feel supported by our community. I mean, through my foster sister supported me the whole time. We've remained friends, and then I started looking up to celebrities who came out. I think especially African American celebrities, because there are very few who became out. I saw more like white celebrities, Latinx celebrities, but because I just really identified with the African Americans because I'm Black too. And so I felt the support in that way. Absolutely.
This is Cami. Oh, I grew up in the school for the deaf, and I just felt like I was in a fishbowl sometimes. There was just so many people were looking. My parents are deaf, my grandparents deaf, my family and friends were extremely supportive, and that part I am grateful for. But what I was so surprised about was that my parents were so chill about it. I thought they would be they're very conservative, so I didn't think they would be, and they always were ones that didn't talk about their personal issues. So when I was at home, I was really uncertain of if I should tell them or not. And I remember being 19 or 20 in college, and I kept thinking, okay, I'm going to have to sit down. I'm going to have this conversation with them. And I felt comfortable with my grandma. And I remember being so nervous. We went out to eat, and I said, "Hey, I'm going to have to tell you something." And they said, "Okay, all right." When I told them, they said, "What's the big deal?" And I was so shocked. I remember just giving them this hug. My grandpa, I thought he was going to have a different reaction, but he was the same way. He thought it wasn't a big deal, and they both were thinking, "Oh, it's okay. Why are you even talking about this?" And so for me, it was such a huge relief. And I think what helped was my grandparents had gay and lesbian friends or people that they knew. If they didn't know anybody, they might not have reacted the same way, but it was nice that they had friends that already came out the closet. So it was a good experience.
This is Melissa. Melissa, that exposure was helpful, right? Yeah, Jojo. This is Jojo. I feel like I have maybe two different things to say. First of all, I love to be around people. I'm a social butterfly. I love to be with others. That's my personality and just who I am. I really care about people. I care about those connections, and that's important to me. So, yes, somehow I feel maybe a little bit anxious. Some of my friends from the deaf school and in the community, I did feel a lot of support there, but within my family, like my parents and my sisters, I did feel support there. But other people, extended family members like my aunts and uncles and cousins, I do have a few cousins that were supportive, but I just don't really share a lot with them. Sometimes they'll ask, um, like I won't say something like, "Hey, guess what? I'm gay." I just don't do that with extended family, and I just don't even bother. I just want to interact with them, say hi to them, talk. But if they will ask me, I will definitely respond yes, but I don't really make a point to share that. And then also, I want to say that I grew up going to church. And a lot of those friends, I would see every Sunday. And I was scared to come out to them because I was afraid of losing some of those good friendships. I knew what their perspective was and being very Christian, and that they felt that being gay was wrong. I know that's not everybody's perspective, but I was worried about that. Many of them said, "Hey, I love you. I still love you. And it's not a big deal." So that kind of changed my mind on them. So I don't know. I had a bunch of differing experiences.
Yes, this is Melissa. There's so many perspectives that go into that. And obviously, for all of us, what we remember the most and what sticks with us is all the people that were there to support us. That's something you hold on to, and that's something that's just invaluable. I always feel with these conversations and just even talking with you, I see you guys, I feel validated. I'm thinking about our journey, and I know it's so important, just like many people that are watching today. And I know there may be some people who aren't watching. They're in a position, or they're watching and they're in a position of maybe not, or scared of coming out, or they're uncertain. Is there anything that you want to say to them, or any kind of advice you want to pass on?
This is Dre. I would say I love you to those people who want to come out 100%. We support you. We're here for you. We don't want you to feel guilty or feel regretful or that your friends aren't going to accept you. You will get that support. Um, you know, Put aside any thoughts of being selfish because you are important. It's about you.
That's right. This is Melissa. So this is Cami. I have advice for people who haven't come out yet, or who are even straight. Just be kind. That's my favorite quote by Maya Angelou. Is you will remember you won't remember what a person says to you, but you'll never forget how they make you feel.
Mm,
It's just one of those things that stick with you. If it's a
yes.
bad way that they make you feel, or if it's a positive way, I'll always remember how people made me feel back in the day when I went to the school for the deaf, my family, my friends. It all sticks.
This is Melissa. Beautifully said. This is Jojo. My message would be to those people who are still in the closet or unsure, you're not alone. You have friends that love you. You have people that will support you. So find your group of supportive friends and family, and things will get better. We make things better for the future, and that does come around. So stay strong and be proud.
That's right. Stay strong. This is Dre. I know it's hard. I know it's hard when you feel like you can't keep going on, but keep going. And with time, you're going to get stronger and stronger. And you're going to start seeing all the things that you've done. And you could finally say, I did it. I did it.
This is Melissa. Things do get better somehow.
That's right.
And sometimes we don't know how long that will take, but they do get better. I agree with you. Depend on those who can give you that support. And there are so many great resources out there. The Rainbow Alliance for the Deaf, RAD, the deaf queer groups, there's more and more social media accounts out there. There's so much out there. So just reach out. And we're here to share resources with you and remind you you're not alone.
Deaf Queer is one of the best resources, seriously. I know some of those people and I support it 100%. Just definitely go there.
This is Jojo. I also want to encourage parents, if you're watching, please get involved with PFLAG, PFLAG, for parents. It's a support organization.
Yes. I gotta wave that flag.
This is Melissa. Thank you for your willingness to participate in this conversation and willing to be open and sharing with all of us. Thank you to each one of you so much. And thank you all for watching.
Thank you so much. Take care.